Welcome back to the Sports Authority. Jed Musey and Local 12 digital columnist and editor Richard Skinner. It was the first comeback of 21 or more points in the NFL regular season since the Chiefs did it in 2016. Bengals got out to a 21-0 lead, and this looked like a different team off the bus. They immediately forced a turnover. The offensive line looked like they were ready to go, and it looked like, oh my gosh, here we go.
Yeah, occasionally you see it in the league, right, where there's a weird turnover and a tip ball and maybe a punt return or something like that, and a team gets a big lead, and you're like, a little smoke and mirrors. No, they dominated really every way. You're right, the second play of the game, I don't know if they forced it or not, but it was still a turnover, and they got it. Yeah, but still, and ended up capitalizing, force a 3 and out, drive the field and capitalize, force a 3 and out, throw the long ball to T. Higgins at the end of the first quarter, go ahead after a false start and capitalize. You know, they had 194 yards after one quarter, got another 7 on the touchdown run by Joe Mixon. It was 201-36. They had 10 first downs at that point to 1 for the Colts, leading 21-0. That's domination. That's not fluky, right? There's no fluke to that. That was dominance. And then it flipped completely from that point forward.
Do you think that getting out so far ahead was maybe detrimental? Is that even
I don't know, and it's always a legitimate question because I don't it's so funny, and you follow Twitter enough. I mean, the Twitter timeline for everybody, you could tell the uneasiness, especially when the Colts scored to kind of, okay, now it's a 21-7 lead, and I know how this is going to end. We really don't, but I guess we did, right? No, I don't think so. I think some of it is, I mean, again, that was still the number 1 ranked defense in the NFL they were playing against. They were playing without Darius Leonard, their fabulous linebacker, but it still was number 1 against the rush, or number 1 against the pass, rather, number 3 against the rush, number 1 overall, and it almost felt like they just finally said enough is enough. We are good enough. Let's just do our thing. I thought they brought a little bit more pressure on Joe. Joe didn't have a little bit, extra time to stand in there as he did at some parts of the game, and they really shut down the run game. And when you do that, and you're starting to go 3rd and 7s a lot, it's just hard to convert. It's hard for this team especially to convert.
Philip Rivers, they had a lot of fun with him on the broadcast, how old he is, how many kids he has. But, how to beat Philip Rivers at this point in his career is get pressure on him. He's never been a very mobile quarterback. Second quarter today for Rivers, 14 of 21, 235 yards and 2 touchdowns in a quarter. They just couldn't get to him. No,
and I asked Zach in the post game about, would you have liked to seen, more blitz pressure put on? He said, well, we tried and we didn't get there. Okay, that's fine, but the 4-man pressures didn't get there either. And all I heard it from Carl Lawson, I heard it from Carlos Dunlap, that when we get ahead, part of the reason we're not getting pressure is we're behind and other teams are running the ball, or they can mix it up, and when we can play from ahead, we'll get those pressures. I didn't see it. I haven't seen it yet. And I think you're starting to see it's why some guys are starting to find their way little by little, more and more, to the bench area. Is they're just going to try to roll some guys through and see what you got. I know it stinks because you don't want to see what you want to win games, but I think they're at a big time see what you got at the defensive front because they can't get pressure with a lot of the guys they're paying to get pressure.
Maybe we should start a new segment called the Milk Carton Segment of the Week. Who is missing for the Bengals? You had one more reception than John Ross did today because of
I didn't have another snap than John Ross, but you're right.
But your daughter got married. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And it actually did linger past midnight a little bit, so I did have one more reception today than he did.
So he was active. A lot of people were wondering if he was going to make an impact, and that answer was no.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. I thought John might get a handful of snaps just to test it and see, hey. If Auden Tate had been active, I think Auden would have gotten snaps. He took Auden's place because Auden was hurt. I think it shows you completely where it stands with John. This was just, hey, we got a wide receiver hurt. We need to put a wide receiver up. You're up in case somebody gets hurt, but we're not going to play you. And I start to feel like we're seeing that more and more with Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap of, you know what, you're here. We don't think you give us very much anymore, and we don't have to play you. And if you don't want to play for us, then fine. It feels like a real cat and mouse game that's going on. And I don't know who's going to win that battle because obviously they're not winning games as they're trying to battle their way through this as a coaching staff. At the same time, then maybe you also point to these guys and go, shame on you. If that's how you want to do it, I wouldn't play you either. I don't know where that stands because there's no honest answer so far. They're hiding behind injuries, hiding behind a benching. One guy says he got benched. One guy says, no, I didn't get benched. The coaching staff says, no, we didn't bench. We told him he was getting benched. And it's a big he said, she said right now. So I think there's a lot of things they're fighting. And the more you lose like last week, ugly, and this week, I don't want to say ugly, but in a deflating way,
sure,
you ain't keeping that locker room for much longer.
The bright spot was A.J. Green. We've talked for consecutive weeks that potentially the ship had completely sailed, and it looked like there was signs of life from him. He was trusted in big spots. He made some big plays. He made some big catches. Did have a play that the A.J. Green of old definitely makes.
Yeah.
But at least a positive thing for a fan favorite.
I mean, he made the one catch. I actually reversed it. He actually only had the one play that he didn't make. But you're right, two that he did make. I thought the one along the sideline where he kind of went down to catch it, and then the one right at the sticks on a huge play where he got just beyond the sticks, battled the wide receiver, showed strong hands, and that replay of it, I kept thinking that ball had to come out, right? And he really did a great job to hold on it and get a huge first down at that point. He even talked about the one that he missed that you're talking about, the one down the sideline, that he basically misjudged that, mistimed that, probably should have jumped to get it. And so I'm going to give him a pass. It is a play we've seen him make before, right? And a play you expect a guy of that caliber to make. But I thought it was a great bounce back effort. Now, are we going to see that week to week? Is this just an A.J. Green chip on the shoulder? Was this just the right matchup at the right time because the ball dictated it goes to A.J.'s way and he was able to make catches? I don't know. It was a nice bounce back step forward, but at the same time, he still lost a football game.
I do have to maybe, and this is maybe an ongoing segment as well, where I contemplate asking you a question that maybe I shouldn't quite yet. There was a little scuttlebutt, I guess, on Twitter this week with Darius Phillips, some subtweeting and all that kind of stuff about he's not being used properly, that kind of thing. You mentioned it a few responses ago. Is this coaching staff in danger of it getting late early for them?
I think it is, and no matter what they say of, we got accountability, we got good people in that locker room. That's great. I'm tired of hearing it because it's not translating to victories. Maybe you do, and maybe the process is we're going to look up in 3 years, and this coaching staff takes this team to the playoffs. But the proof right now is in the pudding, and you're seeing more and more guys either check out, ticked off, mad, and then I think you're seeing the coaching staff go, okay, you know what? Then I'm not going to play you. I'm still trying to figure out because we have not talked to Darius. I mean, obviously there's no locker room open any longer. You're kind of at the mercy of the Zooms. I'm not sure what he meant by it. Does he want to return punts? Does he want to be the outside corner? Does he want to? It was funny because I'm thinking, dude, you're starting every game. I'm not sure what else you want. Maybe you want to return punts. I don't know.
He had some issues today.
Yes, he did, and that's a bad look for him too. I mean, if you're going to spout off like that, don't get beat in coverage the times you got beat. He did not look good at a key stage, and that's actually coming when the Colts started to make their little run there in the second quarter.
Can we put a number on? Is it unfair to think about how many wins it's going to take for this coaching staff to feel good?
It's funny you say that because on some podcasts I've done, especially over the year, Tony Pike and James Rapine and I did one, and we wanted to set a number, and I said, I don't know if there's a number. I think there's going to be a feel of how are they playing? Are they progressing? Is it, hey, that's a tough way to lose? And it feels like I say that and I watch how they've lost. I mean, they've lost. Chargers could have been a victory. Philly could have been a victory. Today should have been a victory. The only really ugly game, there was part of the Cleveland game was ugly, but not all of it.
Right.
Last week was ugly, obviously, and the Ravens do that to a lot of teams. In theory, what I said, I feel like, okay, that sounds like some progress. You're starting to be in a lot of games. But at some point, you can't keep talking about building a culture of winning without winning. You've got to win to do that. So I don't know what the number is, Jed. I just can't imagine. I mean, can you imagine 3-12-1 off of 2-14? You're in epic Hugh Jackson bad territory. Now you're not quite the epic Hugh Jackson. Now Hugh also gets skewed because of his 8-8 Oakland Raiders year, but you're kind of in that epic bad territory where this is so ugly you got to do something.
Okay, the new father-in-law, Richard Skinner.
Thank you.
Local12.com digital editor and columnist. All of his work on our website, including the Skinny podcast. Thanks so much, Skinny. We'll be right back.